And we want to be clearer, crystal clear, powerful receptacles of spirit. So I invite you to clean your consciousness on a regular basis so you can experience and express the truth of who you are and all and everything that you do.
I feel the spirit moving in me. I feel the spirit moving in me.
Well, this was a really fun lesson for me to create today about a powerful universal unity teaching. I release and I let go, and I am in the flow. Kind of rhymes too, doesn't it? Well, there was a minister, and he was relatively young in the ministry, and he had this church, and he wanted to bring a whole new life to that church. He wanted to jazz up the church. And so he took out the pews and installed bucket seats and stereo sound equipment, and he installed a drive-through window for confessional. How cool is that? And then he put a sign up on the highway to advertise all of this. And his district manager, or his district minister, supervisor came by one day and he goes, this is all really great. And, I'm even okay with the drive-through confessional, but I don't know about the sign next to it, which reads, "Toot toot and tell or go to hell." Of course, we don't believe in going to hell. We do believe we can experience it sometimes, right? And sometimes I think that it helps to let go, to release, to say things that aren't working, or to just to speak about things and get the energy out, because we know that everything is energy, and sometimes we have to release that energy so that we can be in the flow, don't you think? Yeah. So I release and I let go, and I am in the flow. This is a picture of the Butterfly House in St. Louis. And when I lived there, I went there a number of times, and it's an incredibly beautiful place with thousands of different kinds of butterflies. And here's a picture of one of them. And I was there with some friends, and we were talking to the docent, and the docent said, be careful if a butterfly lands on you, be careful not to brush it off. Because it's a huge place. Have you been there? And they're just all over the place. And my friend said, but, I have a brand new shirt on, and I don't want a butterfly to poop on me. And the docent said, well, you don't have to worry. Butterflies only live a few weeks, and they don't poop. And my friend said, well, no wonder they only live a couple weeks. So I've researched that since that time, and it actually what the docent said isn't true. Butterflies do release a translucent liquid, and so that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't know where else to go with that. Oh, my goodness. All right. So how long would you live if you couldn't eliminate? Probably not very long. Oh, I can hear you now. You're going to be telling your friends, guess what the minister was talking about today? Butterflies and, not letting go. Charles Fillmore created this idea of the 12 powers. And as you know, we've been taking 1 power a month all of this year. And the power for the month is renunciation, or letting go. And each one of the 12 powers is represented by a disciple. And this month's disciple is Thaddeus. And interestingly enough, the color is russet. I don't know what the similarity there is, but I'm sure you can draw it on. You can draw your own conclusions. Charles Fillmore said about this 12 power, he said, "It's just as necessary that one should learn to let go of thoughts, conditions, and substances in consciousness, body, and affairs when they have served their purpose and one no longer needs them. As it is, that one should lay hold of new ideas and substances to meet one's daily requirements. Therefore, it is very necessary that the eliminative faculty be quickened in one, and a right balance between receiving and giving, laying hold and letting go be established." And what we know from this teaching is that our minds are like a sponge, and they absorb everything we hear. And some of the things that we hear and think are true, and others just aren't true. And so what we get to do in this eliminative process, I don't think I've ever heard or used that word before, but Charles was quite verbose, you might say. And so what we get to do is to practice bringing in the truth and letting go of the thoughts and feelings and beliefs that don't serve us anymore. So elimination is very powerful to us. I think it's one of the most powerful 12 powers, because if we're holding on to something and it's erroneous or it's not true, we cannot let the truth in. We can't experience the joy of life, the truth of life, the power of the presence of our Christ selves. You might remember this story. This is Lot and his family leaving Sodom and Gomorrah in the background there. And Sodom and Gomorrah had quite an interesting reputation, you might remember, in those days. And some angels came to Lot, and they spoke these words to them. They said, "When morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, 'Arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed by the punishment of the city.' Interesting, but he lingered. He wasn't the only one. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand. The Lord, being merciful to him and his daughters, brought them forth and set them outside the city. And when they had brought them forth, they said, 'Flee for your life, and do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Flee to the hills, lest you be consumed.' But Lot's wife looked behind, and she became a pillar of salt." Until I really looked at this a little deeper, I never really realized that Lot lingered also. Sometimes I've noticed that I linger, even though I know that there is a higher possibility for me, or something that I should be doing, that I get divine guidance. But sometimes I go back and do things the way that I used to do them, or I stall. Ever happened to you? And it's like, I know I should do this, but here I am, not facing that which I get to face, not saying what I need to say, not doing what I should do, but lingering. And not that that's bad, because sometimes it takes that lingering to get the power and the truth and the enthusiasm to do what we get to do. What I like about Bible scriptures and looking at them metaphysically is that they show us patterns in our own life. And they kind of say, oh, isn't this interesting? This is kind of the human condition. You're not alone in the fact that you linger. We all do that. But what happens to Lot's wife is really interesting, because she stops, looks back at Sodom and Gomorrah, and we can imagine she's looking back and thinking of the life that she had there and the things that she had there and how much she liked it. And she had friends there. And part of her was like, I want to be back there. I know what's back there. I know what's comfortable. I've dealt with that stuff before. Interesting that she became a pillar of salt. In those days, salt was a preservative used to keep meat and things and to age them and be able to store them. So often what happens, if we keep looking back at the way things used to be and want them the way that they were before, back in the good old days, we become preserved in the past, and we can't move forward like Lot's wife. Didn't move forward. It didn't leave Sodom and Gomorrah with them. There's an interesting picture that I found on the internet that this is often thought to be Lot's wife. It's a salt sculpture out in the wilderness, and many people have thought that this is surely Lot's wife. Mentally, she was holding on to the past, preserved in limitation. One thing that I get to deal with is I have had the belief that everything is hard. And I have been in this position many times writing my Sunday talk or writing some other kind of creative endeavor. And I can find myself going to sleep, and I can be overwhelmed by the belief that what I'm doing is hard. It's hard. Somehow I've embraced that error belief a lot of my life. To think that, things have to be hard. In order to be good at something, you have to struggle through them, right? In order to be successful, you have to struggle. And this is one of my personal places where I become like a pillar of salt, where I can become preserved in the past, where I can become stuck. Actually, the guy kind of looks a little bit like I used to before my hair turned to salt. And what I recognize now is that when I start to feel this heaviness, right, that I can become aware that something is happening, something isn't right, right? I can feel it in my body. It's like it starts to shut down, it starts to freeze, it starts to say, hey, 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 hey. And then often I can fall asleep. Or I can know that this awareness is bringing me a message. There is guidance in this message for me to understand and to know the truth. And to know that what I'm experiencing only seems like it's hard. I know for me, I've discovered that things are never as difficult as we think they are. Yeah, true for you? That our mind, my mind, can go 1,000 different places and think that this thing that I get to deal with is going to be the most difficult thing that I'm ever going to have to deal with in my life, and I just might not even survive. True for anybody else. Maybe not about this. Maybe you have your own salty water to deal with. And so I know when I get in this place, often what I say is, I release and I let go, and I go with the flow. And sometimes that means for me taking a nap and waking up with a new perspective. And just realizing it's all part of the process. You know, we don't get upset. I don't get upset for myself when I find I have resistance, but rather just to go, okay, I release, I let go. I'm in the flow. And then go have a cup of coffee and get back at it. Affirm the truth. Things flow easily and gracefully for me. So that was my story. What is yours? The first step in being able to release and let go and be in the flow is to realize it's a practice. And then to be aware that something isn't working. That's usually the first sign that we get is it feels like it's a struggle. This shouldn't be so difficult. Why is this so difficult? And just, okay, so interesting. Okay, so I'm awake. I'm realizing that something in this situation isn't working as smoothly as I would like it to. So I'm paying attention. Yeah. The first step in any transformation, and this is all about spiritual transformation, is to be aware. Okay, something's going on. Interesting. Another chance for growth. Yay! Can you say it with me? Yay! All right, yes. And that's the attitude to have rather than say, oh, shoot, I have another dang opportunity for growth. If we could go, yes, okay. It's another opportunity for growth. It's another advancement. It's another promotion on the spiritual path. Yippee! I'm glad that you laughed. And the next step is to be open to discovering erroneous thoughts and beliefs. Because behind every struggle that we have, behind all suffering that we have, are error thoughts and beliefs that aren't true. Everything. So what is it then? What is it that's behind the suffering? For me, it was just to know that I have this belief that everything is hard. Once I discovered it, it's like, wow, the whole universe opened up. The next step is to listen for guidance. You know, in prayer, in meditation, take the idea, the thought, hold the space for, and be open for understanding what it is. Okay, what is it that's not working? What is the thought or belief that I'm holding on to that's not true? What is it that's keeping me stuck? And you'll know it because you'll feel it. Our bodies and our minds start to be like a pillar of salt, and they start. It's like, you ever feel that? Where things start to like tighten up and become sediment. And so listen. You know, sometimes it helps just to affirm. You know, I'm willing to know what it is that's keeping me stuck. Okay, Spirit, let me hear what thoughts and beliefs am I holding on to that aren't true? And we resist that often. The ego resists that often because it's afraid. Ego is afraid on some level of transformation, of having to do something different, of having to be different, as if it's going to be harder. And the truth of it is, enlightenment, awareness, living in the truth is easier than not. Living in the erroneous thinking. So listen for guidance. And the next one is to let go of the negative thoughts and beliefs. Once you identify them, than to say, you know, I know for me, I'll say, you know, I release these error thoughts and beliefs that things are hard. I release them. I release you. I let you go. You have no power over me. I see you. There you are. And I'm letting you go. You may have served me at some time in the past, but I've come to a place in my spiritual awareness where I know it doesn't work for me anymore. And I'm willing to let it go. Take a deep breath. I release you and I let you go because you don't serve me anymore. What is it for you? What is something that's holding you back? Something that says you're not worthy, or you can't, or it's difficult, or you don't have what it takes, or God forbid you're not good enough looking, or our minds can come up with a million reasons why we can't be successful, and then we say that those things are real. And they can hold us back from being that divine light of love and truth and power and Christness that we are. And then affirm the truth. Things flow easily and gracefully for me. Things happen easily and gracefully. With peace, with joy, with love. That's the truth, isn't it? 3 of you, huh? That's the truth, isn't it? You know it's the truth. So, I invite you to hold out your hand or your hands. And just think for a moment, what is something that's holding you back? What is a thought or belief that you are holding on to? And it's powerful to recognize it. Don't be afraid of it. And so I imagine you can see it right there. And I invite you to close your fist, your hands around that thing. And hold it really, really tight. Really, really tight. Maybe as tight as you've ever held on to it your whole life, or certainly right now in this moment, to hold on to it. How's that feel? Relaxing, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So this thing that you're holding on to isn't the truth of who you are. And when you let go of it, you open yourselves up to knowing the truth. As long as you're hanging on to this thing, this thought, this belief, this feeling, you can't express your highest potential. So in this moment, right here, right now, we're going to let go of this stuff. Because you don't need it. It may have served you at one time, but I suspect if you got it in your hand and you're clenching it right now, that you don't need it anymore. So imagine that presence of God within you, that presence of love touches your hands. And in that moment, that touch opens your hands up. And I invite you to open your hands and let that go. And imagine that your hand is filled with the light of truth. That thing, whatever it was, you may not even know what it is anymore. It's gone. It no longer applies to you or defines you. What is in your hands now is the presence of light, the presence of God, the presence of truth. I release and I let go. And I'm in the flow. Affirm that with me. I release and I let go. And I'm in the flow. Letting go. Imagine that whatever that was is flying away. It's gone. gone. So what is the truth? The erroneous is gone. What is the truth for you? And I invite you to hold your hand open and allow yourself to receive what is the truth. What is it that your higher self is telling you is the truth for you in this moment? And breathe that in. See it in your hands and allow it to move into your body, into your mind. Know the truth. And the truth will let you free so that you can be all that you are. Take a breath, breathing in and letting out. Let this that you are, that you're holding in your hands, move through you and out into the universe. Almost like a fountain. Fountain of light. And so now wherever you are, wherever you go, you are shining that light of truth, being the essence and the power and that you are, that perfect expression of God. And take a deep breath. And I invite you to close your eyes if you haven't done so. And to feel the freedom in your consciousness, the openness, the awareness, the truth. I release and I let go. And I am in the flow. Breathing in, breathing out. And I invite you to gently bring your awareness back to this moment, to be aware of the light in the room and to open your eyes. And I want to share just one more thing with you, and that is to talk about the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is on the northeast side of Israel. And it's interesting because the Dead Sea's elevation is about 1,400 feet below sea level. And the only water that flows into the Dead Sea is from the Jordan River, and it comes in from the north. And it's interesting that water flows into the Dead Sea, but it doesn't flow out. And so, as a result, and I'm sure you've heard, the Dead Sea is extremely salty and kind of beautiful in a way. Nothing grows around the Dead Sea, and nothing lives in the water. And so, like for us, similarly to the Dead Sea, we can let ideas in We can let truth in. Sometimes we can even, things that aren't true come in. And unless we have the ability to use our faculty of renunciation or elimination or letting go, those things build up. And we want to be clearer, crystal clear, powerful receptacles of spirit. So I invite you to clean your consciousness on a regular basis so you can experience and express the truth of who you are and all and everything that you do. And so it is. Namaste.
Where I